I never imagined that the person who would shatter my life wasn't a stranger, an enemy, or even an outsider, but my own daughter. For 32 years I tried to be the mother who gave everything, who sacrificed, who believed that love and loyalty would keep us bound together. I was wrong. And if you think money can't poison blood ties, wait until you hear what $30 million did to us. Before I go any further, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to our channel. We share real-life stories filled with betrayal, shocking secrets, and the kind of twists you'll never see coming. You don't want to miss what's next. It all started on a cold Sunday evening when my daughter, Emily, arrived at my home looking radiant, confident, and, if I'm honest, arrogant in a way I had never seen before. She had always been ambitious, the kind of girl who dreamed bigger than the town we came from. But that night, there was something else in her eyes, a secret she couldn't quite contain. At first, I thought she was glowing from her new promotion. She had recently been working at a high-profile tech startup in San Francisco, and though she rarely visited, I knew she was making waves. She barely touched the coffee I set in front of her, drumming her manicured nails against the cup like she was waiting for me to ask. "Mom," she finally said, her voice brimming with excitement, "I have something to tell you. Something life-changing." I smiled, leaning forward. "Are you engaged?" I asked, half joking. Emily laughed, but it wasn't warm. It was sharp, almost mocking. "Better than that," she said. "I just came into $30 million. The room went silent. I thought I had misheard her. "30 million?" I repeated, nearly choking on the words. "Yes," she said, her grin widening. $30 million. The explanation tumbled out. The startup she had joined wasn't just successful, it had just sold to a major corporation, and as one of the early employees with equity, her payout was astronomical. She hadn't just struck gold, she'd hit an entire gold mine. At first, I was stunned with pride. My daughter, the little girl I raised alone after her father walked out, was now a multimillionaire. But as she spoke, her tone shifted. There was no gratitude, no acknowledgement of the sacrifices I had made, the nights I worked 2 jobs to keep food on the table. Instead, she leaned back, crossing her legs, and said, "You know, Mom, now that I've made it, I think it's time I live life on my own terms. I don't need obligations anymore." Obligations. That word stung more than anything. Was I just an obligation to her now? 3 days later, I had my answer. Emily came back, not with flowers or plans to celebrate, but with movers. She stood in my living room, arms folded, and told me I needed to vacate my own home. The home I had worked my entire life to pay off. She claimed she had already spoken to a lawyer, that because I had once put her name on part of the deed, something I had done years ago for future security, she had leverage. "You'll understand, Mom," she said coldly. "I just want a space that reflects the woman I am now. And honestly, you don't belong in this house anymore." I stood there in shock, unable to comprehend what I was hearing. My daughter, the child I had given everything for, was throwing me out of my own home because she had money now. That night, I sat in my car, staring at the house lights glowing behind me, my belongings shoved into trash bags, my heart shattered. But in that moment of despair, I promised myself one thing: I wouldn't let Emily's betrayal destroy me. She might have money, but I had something she didn't know I had: knowledge. And patience. You see, Emily had a secret within her secret. $30 million doesn't come clean. As much as she flaunted her new wealth, I knew something was off. People don't just come into that kind of money without strings attached. And Emily had always been reckless with shortcuts. Over the next week, I quietly began to piece together fragments of her story. She had mentioned her business partners, two men from her company who weren't exactly angels. Whispers began circulating online about lawsuits, about employees being cheated, about investors being lied to. And then I stumbled upon something that made my blood run cold. Emily hadn't just benefited from the sale, she had played a part in silencing a whistleblower who was trying to expose fraud inside the company. At first, I didn't want to believe it. This was my daughter. But as I dug deeper, it became undeniable. Emails leaked. Screenshots. Her signature on documents that showed she willingly pushed through numbers that weren't real. That $30 million wasn't just luck, it was blood money. The more I uncovered, the more a plan began to form in my mind. She thought she had cast me aside, but she had no idea that I could still bring everything crashing down. But I waited. I waited until Emily hosted her celebration party. She rented out a lavish mansion in Los Angeles, invited everyone from her Silicon Valley circle, and made sure her social media was filled with pictures of champagne towers, luxury cars, and designer gowns. I was not invited. Of course not. But I showed up anyway. I arrived quietly, blending into the crowd like I belonged. Nobody questioned me. In their eyes, I was just another relative, another plus one. I watched as Emily strutted across the room, her diamond necklace glittering, her laughter echoing as if she were untouchable. When she finally noticed me, her face dropped. "What are you doing here?" she hissed, dragging me into a corner. I leaned in, my voice calm but firm. "I know what you did, Emily. I know where that money came from. And if you think you can throw me away like trash, you're mistaken. Because I have everything, the proof, the receipts, the evidence. And when the truth comes out, your 30 million won't mean a thing." Her face turned pale. For the first time, I saw fear flicker in her eyes. And that's when the begging began. Emily's perfect smile cracked for the first time that night. The glittering room around us suddenly didn't matter, her friends, the music, the lights, it all dimmed as her attention zeroed in on me. She gripped my wrist tightly, her nails digging into my skin, her voice dropping to a whisper that trembled. "Mom, please, don't do this. You don't understand." I pulled my hand back, staring at her with a calmness she couldn't comprehend. "I understand perfectly. You sold your soul for $30 million, Emily. You pushed people aside, lied, and cheated to get where you are. And you threw me away the second you thought you didn't need me anymore." Her eyes darted nervously around the room, terrified someone might overhear. She tugged me toward a back corridor, away from the music and laughter. Her voice was desperate now, her confidence crumbling. "Okay, fine," she said, her words rushing. "Yes, I did things. Things I'm not proud of. But Mom, you have no idea what I was up against. Those men I worked with, they're dangerous. If I hadn't gone along with them, I would have lost everything. This money, it's not just mine. It's theirs too. And if they find out they'll come after you." For a moment, I felt a chill run down my spine. But then I remembered the sight of my belongings stuffed into trash bags, the humiliation of being thrown out of my own house. Her warning didn't shake me, it fueled me. "Emily," I said softly, "you've already come after me. And now, it's your turn to feel what that's like." Her lip trembled, but before she could reply, one of her business partners appeared in the hallway, a tall man with slicked back hair and a glass of whiskey in his hand. His eyes narrowed as he glanced between us. "Everything okay here?" he asked smoothly, but his tone carried a sharp edge. Emily plastered on a fake smile. "Yes, everything's fine," she said quickly, though her voice cracked. He studied her for a moment longer before smirking and walking away. But I noticed the way Emily's hands shook once he was gone. She wasn't exaggerating, the men she was tied to weren't safe. Later that night, I slipped out of the party unnoticed. I had made my point, planted the seed of fear, and now I just had to wait. And sure enough, the very next morning, Emily showed up at the shabby little apartment I had been forced to rent after she threw me out. She wasn't wearing diamonds anymore. She wasn't glowing with arrogance. She was pale, her mascara smudged, her voice hoarse from crying. "Mom, I need your help," she whispered as soon as I opened the door. I stood still, leaning against the frame, letting her desperation hang in the air. "Help?" I repeated coldly. "Funny. That's the same word I begged for when you tossed me out like garbage. Did you help me then?" Her knees buckled, and she sank onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. "I made a mistake. A huge mistake. Those men, they're turning on me. They think I might expose them, and if I don't hand over part of the money, they'll ruin me. Mom, they're threatening me. Please, you're the only one I can trust." For the first time in days, I almost felt a pang of sympathy. She was still my daughter, after all. But then I reminded myself of every sleepless night, every insult, every betrayal. Trust had been burned to ashes. "Emily," I said firmly, "if you really want my help, you need to do something first. You need to confess. Not just to me, but to the world. You need to admit how you got that money and who you hurt." Her head shot up, eyes wide with horror. "No. If I do that, I'll lose everything." "You already lost everything," I snapped. "Your family. Your dignity. Your soul. All you have left is blood money, and even that's slipping through your fingers. If you want redemption, this is the only way." For days, she resisted. She tried bribing me with gifts, with checks, with promises. She begged, she cried, she screamed. But I refused to budge. And then, one evening, the choice was taken from her. 2 of her business partners showed up at her penthouse. They weren't there to drink champagne or celebrate. They were there to collect. And when Emily refused to sign over half of her fortune, they turned violent. The call came late at night. Emily's voice was frantic, broken. "Mom, they're here, they're going to kill me. Please, please help me." I rushed to her apartment, my heart pounding. By the time I arrived, the men were gone, leaving chaos in their wake. Emily was curled in the corner, her lip bleeding, her hands shaking uncontrollably. She looked up at me with swollen eyes, whispering, "I can't do this anymore." That was the moment I saw my chance. I pulled out the folder I had been preparing for weeks, the emails, the screenshots, the contracts with her signature. "Then we go to the authorities," I said. "We bring everything. Not just about you, but about them. We end this." For the first time, Emily didn't argue. The investigation that followed was brutal. Her partners were arrested, lawsuits erupted, and the company she had once boasted about crumbled in public disgrace. As for Emily, her $30 million vanished into legal fees, settlements, and restitution. She was left with nothing but a tarnished name and the wreckage of her choices. And me? For once, I didn't feel broken. Watching her stand before a judge, trembling as she admitted her role in the fraud, I felt a grim satisfaction. This wasn't just revenge, it was justice. Months later, Emily came to see me. She wasn't dressed in designer clothes anymore. She wore a plain sweater, her hair tied back, her eyes hollow but sincere. She sat across from me, her voice quiet. "Mom. I'm sorry," she whispered. "I was blinded by greed, by pride. I thought money would make me powerful, but it destroyed me. You were right about everything. And now I don't have anyone left but you." I studied her carefully. She wasn't the same arrogant woman who once threw me out of my own home. She was broken, humbled. "Emily," I said softly, "money doesn't define you. But betrayal does. And trust has to be earned." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Then let me earn it back. Please. I'll do whatever it takes." Did I forgive her? That's the question I still wrestle with. Part of me wanted to hold on to the pain, to remind her every day of the wounds she had caused. But another part, the mother in me, wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, she had learned. The truth is, healing takes time. And trust, once shattered, may never fully return. But as I looked into my daughter's eyes, I realized something. The story wasn't just about $30 million. It was about how far greed can push us, how quickly love can be traded for power, and how fragile family bonds can truly be. Because in the end, $30 million didn't make Emily rich. It made her the poorest person I'd ever known. And as for me, I may have lost a home, but I found something far more valuable. My strength. My voice. My power to stand up, even against my own blood. So when Emily came crawling back, begging for my help, she wasn't just asking for forgiveness. She was asking for a second chance at being human again. Whether she deserves it or not, only time will tell.